water tanker is a huge mafia now.
You use the term FSI. Can you help us understand
We have converted sewage to drinking water.
what you mean when we say sustainable construction?
You want to come on board or not? I said, no, I'm not going to sign. Then I said, you can exit the project.
What have been the biggest challenges in terms of sustainable construction, the trade-offs that you have had to make?
A lot of fly ash based products coming in. There is a push towards green concrete.
What stage do you start, being shown on the radar?
The government tries to shift its responsibilities to the private citizen.
What are the typical margins you see on a project?
1 kg of cement is equal to 1 kg of carbon.
Don't even talk to me about stocks, right? I'm making so much money in real estate.
The running costs of wind turbines are cheaper than solar.
If you see New York and you compare that to a Bangalore.
Foundation to finish, costing, material, everything I could do.
Startups listening to us, right? So what is your advice to them as a developer?
Black is commode water. The water that comes from the closet is black.
Okay.
Everything else is grey.
How do you define a green building?
The biggest challenge is up until the point you start your construction.
Best and worst parts of being a real estate developer.
Quality of water was better than your distillery water.
The magic mantra of winning so many awards.
No. I've left that behind.
Hi, Suhail.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us today at Property Angel on this podcast for sustainable construction. So you have won so many awards. And in fact, you are the first real estate developer we've had on this podcast. So lots to learn from you. But I want to start with the basics. So can you help us understand what you mean when we say sustainable construction? What do we mean by that? What are the metrics? What are the goals? How do you define a green building? So if we can start with the basics, we'll go from there.
So thank you for having me, Sapna. So sustainability in construction, there are three broad aspects. One is energy, water and waste are the three main aspects. Post occupancy, prior to occupancy, during construction, there are also many other factors like the construction material that you use, the amount of water that you're saving in the project, and such aspects. And off late, there is something called net zero, which is all about reducing your carbon impact. So the construction industry, infrastructure combined, worldwide, it sort of contributes about 40% of the global carbon emissions. So, which is where it's imperative for the construction industry to sort of take up the mantle of going green. So, coming back to the main question. So, when you talk about energy, it's about how much of dependence on electricity you reduce, or air conditioning, so to speak. Right now, it's all concrete jungles. So, how do you reduce the dependence on artificial cooling? So, that is one aspect of energy. In terms of water, how much of freshwater demand can you reduce? In terms of waste, it is how much of waste to landfills are you reducing? So these are all the aspects that you look at, and the rating systems like IGBC grade you on many of these aspects. They have a lot of broad guidelines, 100-point system, which on achieving certain of these parameters, they award you points. And then you have ratings varying from silver, gold, platinum, and things like that.
Okay. So IGBC is
the Indian Green Building Council is IGBC.
Okay. I see. So at CoEvolve, you all your projects are sustainable, based on sustainable design principles, or?
Yes. So all of our current projects, the last two projects and the current projects, even whether it's rated or not, we try to follow as much as possible principles of sustainability, especially in water.
Okay.
More than anything else.
I see.
Primarily because Bangalore is expected to run out of water.
Oh, yes.
So water is a focus in all of our projects.
Okay. So also in terms of ROI, right? So when you obviously your input costs are higher when you say that you are going to So in terms of margins as a developer, I mean, it has to make business sense as well, right?
Yeah.
So so how do the margins sort of stack up when you say are consumers willing to pay a premium for projects based on sustainability?
So I started off sustainable development about a decade ago, at which point there were no awareness about it and nobody really cared about sustainability. And it was actually a loss for me when I did the first project Asset Aura. But the most recent project that I did, I was able to sort of unlock the value once the product was ready. There were buyers willing to pay a premium for it. and I
Okay.
was able to make a decent profit on it. So the buyers are well traveled now, and they are willing to pay a premium if there is a good product.
Hmm.
But I wouldn't say there is a swell for a sustainable product yet from the customer.
Okay. Okay. So, you have also rebranded Asset. Asset was, you mentioned
Yeah,
Asset, or today
yeah.
it's Co-Evolve. So, what was the thinking behind that rebranding?
So we started off as asset builders about 2 decades ago, and our whole ethos and our USP was ahead of schedule delivery, zero deviation, zero violation.
Okay.
These were our ethos as we were formed, and all of our projects continue to do so. But with the advent of RERA, that is the Real Estate Regulatory Authority, um, everyone had to follow what was our USP. So till RERA came into force,
Hmm.
the 2 year delay in construction was on time. The customer
Yeah.
would be very happy if they
True.
got their project in 2 years
Yeah.
post committed date.
Yeah.
But in that market, we our USP used to be that we are ahead of schedule delivery
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
we obviously cannot give a bigger ad than the biggest players.
Hmm.
They have deep pockets, so we could
Hmm.
not shout out that about our brand apart from saying that we walk the talk by delivering ahead of schedule. So that was our USP, and with RERA, that became everybody's USP. With
Hmm.
a gun to the head, everybody had to do it,
Hmm.
whether they like or not.
Hmm.
They're going to have repercussions otherwise.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we had to sort of look for new USPs and rebrand ourselves,
Okay.
which is when we were just fresh off Asset Aura, which was a sustainable development.
Hmm.
So we decided that along with our existing ethos, we move forward with sustainability in every project of ours, which is where
Okay.
Co-Evolve was born.
Okay.
And
Okay.
Co-Evolve, as the word means, we keep evolving. Every project we keep
Keep
learning
evolving.
from the
Okay.
industry, from the
Yeah.
customers, from everyone.
Yeah.
So it's a
Nice.
constant learning
Nice.
process.
So you said for a decade you've been able to maintain this ahead of schedule
Two
delivery, right?
decades. So
2 decades. Wow.
yeah.
So how were you able to do this when most developers were not?
So it's completely construction driven. So all of our construction is in house. So we do not give to any large contractors, and therefore we are able to control the pace of what we do. And
Okay.
most of our engineers who work with us are fresh from college, joined us. They have not been exposed to the processes of other companies.
Okay. Okay.
So they're not corrupted in how the industry works.
Okay. I
So
see.
they think what we do is a norm, and
Okay.
therefore we don't have a pushback from them
Huh.
when we say this is the timelines that we want.
Okay.
And our
Okay.
timelines are very ambitious timelines also. It's not like the airline industry, which says 1.5 hours timeline for a half an hour flight.
Hmm, hmm,
They
hmm,
land in an hour and say that we
hmm,
are ahead of schedule.
hmm, hmm, hmm.
So we set tough target for ourselves and achieve ahead of that also.
Can you give me an example?
So, for example, the Tanisandra project was planned to be a
What was
48
the
month.
name of this project?
Coeval Northern Star
Northern Star. Yeah.
was we committed about 48 months for delivery.
Okay.
We completed the project in about 33 months
Wow.
and
Totally complete.
totally completed handover and everything. And we have the on our website the RERA documentation, OC date, all of this is there.
Okay.
Prior to RERA, we do not have documentary evidence to show the ahead of schedule. But
Okay.
with RERA, we
Okay.
have documentary evidence
Yeah.
also to show
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
ahead of schedule
Yeah,
delivery.
yeah, yeah. So Northern Star was the same project for which you won the award by the World Green
Correct. Yeah.
Business
Yeah.
Building Council,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So can you tell us like about a little bit more about the award and more about the project? On what basis was the award won?
So, Coeval Northern Star was our second platinum rated green building. When the project was on the drawing board, there was a lot of media coverage on Cape Town running out of water and Bangalore being next in line to run out of water.
Hmm.
So our primary focus was to do something in water
Okay,
and to make the project water secure or reduce their dependence as much as possible on water tankers and
okay,
stuff.
okay.
Water tankers is a huge mafia now.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So in Bangalore especially.
Hmm.
So that was our primary design brief to our architect that this is what we want to do. And we set about doing that. We have the project is zero water discharge community. There is no water that goes out of the project.
Oh, really?
Every single drop is used in the project.
Okay.
So we have converted sewage to drinking water
Wow.
and fed it back for everything except drinking. So bathing is also with recycled water mixed with fresh water.
Wow.
So
Okay.
we have used. So this is a radical approach. Another radical act that we did was go with a company called EcoSTP, which is a startup who had not got a customer till date.
Okay.
And we were sort of convinced with their idea. And it's a power free, chemical free STP, zero power, zero chemicals. And we went ahead with them and it became a grand success.
Okay.
So there is huge savings for the community in terms of the sewage management there. So we split gray and black water, treated them separately. Black water was for flushing and irrigation. Grey water goes for bathing, all the other purposes except drinking.
So black
Fresh water
water.
only for kitchen.
Okay. So what is the difference between
Black
black and?
is commode water. The water that comes from the
Okay.
closet is the
Okay.
black.
Okay.
Everything else is grey.
Okay.
So we
Okay.
treated black separately. That goes back for flushing and irrigation. Everything else was treated in a grey water treatment, which went on to multi-stage filtration process, about 8 stages of filtration, and back for drinking. I mean,
Okay.
back for everything else
Bathing.
except drinking.
Yeah.
So the
And
quality of water was better than your distillery water.
really?
In fact,
Wow.
without us
So,
knowing,
huh.
the association president and secretary did a drinking test
Okay.
and shared the video with the community.
Wow.
They drank the water
Yeah.
without us knowing, and they forwarded the video to us.
But in the community, this water is not used for drinking.
Not for drinking, but for
For
everything
bathing.
except
Yeah.
bathing.
Everything except
Except drinking, sorry.
except drinking.
Bathing and
Yeah.
everything
Yeah.
was this.
Kitchen. It's used
Except
in this.
kitchen, yeah. In
Except
kitchen,
kitchen
we have
also.
given a fresh water line.
Okay.
Everywhere
Okay.
else, it is mixed.
Okay.
So this was in terms of water. In terms of energy, we have reduced air conditioning requirement by having high performance glass, which reflects heat, reduces the cooling requirement, heat reflective paint on the roof and walls. So in 130 apartments in the project, there are probably about 15 to 20 air conditioners in total installed in the project.
In the common areas.
No, in apartments, the
In
customers
apartments. Okay.
in 130 houses,
Okay.
a total of 15 to 20 air conditioners
Wow.
in the entire project.
Wow. Okay.
So there is substantial savings in electricity costs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we have mapped all of this to numbers which people understand in terms of
Yeah.
rupees. So in electricity, we save about 300,000 units of electricity every year,
Okay.
which translates to about 35 lakh rupees back then. Now I guess it's more than 40 lakhs also.
Okay.
In water, we save about 2.5 crore liters of fresh water every year. So the community needed a lakh liters of water every day. We brought that down to 40,000 liters a day, and that's what we planned. We planned 35,000 liters a day.
Okay.
We were able to achieve 40,000 liters. So our
Okay.
planning versus actual. Another startup we worked with in the project is called
We
who
got.
did
Okay.
IoT based water meters.
Okay. Okay.
So using their meters, we ran the community for about 2 years, and we mapped all of these numbers, and we had brought down the requirement to 40,000 liters from 1 lakh liters
Okay.
with the recycling and everything
Okay.
in the project.
Okay.
So this was in energy and
Yeah.
water.
Water.
In waste, again, zero power waste management system, which sort of treats 50 tons of wet waste every year within the community. All
Okay.
in all, we were the community saves 242 tons of carbon annually on an annual basis. During construction, we saved about 1,700 tons of carbon.
Okay.
All of this was mapped by another startup which we worked with called Smarter Dharma.
Smarter Dharma. Yes.
All of these
Got it.
startups are from
Yeah.
mentored at Brigadry.
Yeah. So in fact, we had John Kuruvela here at
Oh,
our
yeah,
previous
yeah.
podcast, and he was talking about
Okay,
all
yeah.
of this.
So in fact,
So
we worked with a lot of startups from Reap
Brigadry.
in that
Okay.
project.
Okay.
So Smarter Dharma did all of these number crunching for us in terms
Okay.
of number of units of electricity and carbon and all of those things. We in fact continue working with them on the next current project they're working with us.
I see. I see.
So with this, we got a platinum rating, which is the highest in Karnataka in terms of the points that we scored. We scored 91 on 100 in their point scale,
Okay.
which is the highest in Karnataka and I think top 5 in India.
Okay.
So
Wow.
that is the IGBC part. We were featured in a United Nations report for our water recycling that we did. So they did a case study stating that in a mega city, Bangalore is a mega city, this is how you can reuse your resources in a mega city. So it
Okay.
was a paper presented in South America where
Okay.
they had featured
Okay.
this project
Yeah.
to how you as a model of how you can recycle water.
Okay. Interesting.
So and WGBC was icing on the cake where they invite projects from all across Asia Pacific region in residential, commercial, and then there is an individual award for business leadership. So these are the
Okay.
three categories.
Okay.
So we applied for it. IGBC asked us to apply. We applied for it. We had in fact applied for a previous project called Asset Aura also,
Okay.
where we were nominated in the top three, but we didn't win the award. That was back in 2016.
Okay.
In 2020, we won the award. With Northern Star, we were fortunate to win the award in the Asia Pacific region, the Greenest residential project
Wow.
with WGBC.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
So I think we were the second project in India to ever win an award. The other project was Delhi Metro, had
Oh,
won an award
really?
with WGBC back in
Wow.
2016.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah. So, all of these startups that you worked with, so they had ready solutions for you, or did you have to work with them and, sort of presented your challenge to them and they, you worked together to come up with a solution? How was it?
Not really. They had solutions.
They had ready
So, for
solutions.
example, EcoSTP had a solution. They
Okay.
implemented it, but they fine tuned their product in my project. So they did a lot of research with that development that we had,
Okay.
and now they have a very refined product. So there were challenges that we had
Hmm.
with EcoSTP,
Hmm.
but for 2 years they were constantly handholding the project. They used to have a
Okay.
person regularly at the project to resolve all of these issues
Okay.
and
Okay.
get it to a fully
This
functional
is
state.
post-launch or pre-launch?
Post occupancy. So we in
Post-occupancy.
fact
Okay.
installed since I was the first customer,
Hmm.
I installed EcoSTP on my construction is going on,
Okay.
and I use my labor shed sewage to test EcoSTP out.
Okay.
So
Okay.
for 2
Interesting.
years, the
Yeah.
labor shed sewage was treated with EcoSTP,
Okay.
and then it migrated to the customer's STP system.
Okay. Okay.
So post occupancy 2 years they were, so about 3-4 years constantly they were working with the system to fine tune the product.
Got
But
it.
they did have a solution. It's just that they fine tuned it along with my customers and stuff.
Understood. How?
VGOT had their own solution. Smarter
Okay.
Dharma did a tailor made solution for me,
Okay.
and they
Okay.
continue to do tailor made solutions. So they're
Okay.
basically a company who sort of advises developers who have no knowledge of sustainability.
Okay.
But since I've done projects, for me the requirement is different. So they work very differently for me as compared to any other developer. So we try to do what they don't do, what Smarter Dharma doesn't do. So me and Smarter Dharma are sort of an R&D relationship that we have.
Okay. Okay.
And with other developers, they sort of have like an IGBC. They have a whole sort of set of things that they give. Okay, this is where you need from here to here. If you need to go, this is what you need to do.
I see.
They've developed a
I
system
see.
which gives them ready reckoner processes to follow to become sustainable.
Okay. Okay.
So yeah.
So how did you decide to go with EcoSTP? There must have been other solutions in the market as well.
So EcoSTP completely happened by accident actually. So when we were digging our foundation for STP, the STP that we had initially required a depth of about 6 meters to go underground.
Okay.
At about 3 meters or so, we hit hard rock.
Okay.
And the
Okay.
cost to go further 3 meters was very prohibitive for us.
Okay.
Then we started searching for solutions.
Hmm.
We went through at least 40-50 different vendors before we stumbled upon EcoSTP.
Okay.
And their depth is only 3 meters.
Okay.
A regular
Okay.
STP is about 5 to 6 meters depth.
Okay.
The EcoSTP depth is only 3 meters. So that is
Okay.
where we stumbled upon EcoSTP. They were not our first choice.
Okay.
So EcoSTP was referred by VGOT actually. In fact, VGOT. I
Okay.
knew VGOT before Brigadier.
Okay.
So
Okay.
when I told this problem, then VGOT suggested you can talk to EcoSTP.
I see.
That's
I see.
where EcoSTP came into the picture.
Okay.
And then we heard them and we were really happy with the solution. But the consultant was not.
Sorry?
The consultant on the project was
Okay.
not very
Okay.
upbeat about the product itself.
Okay. Why is that?
So it's a new technology. If he signs off on something, he's responsible for it. So by going through the material, he was not confident that it's going to work.
Okay.
But I was. So I told him I want to do this. He said, "No, I'm not going to sign."
Okay.
And I told. So some back and forth happened, and then finally I said that I'm going with this. You want to come on board or not? He said, "No, I'm not going to sign." Then I said, "You can exit the project. I'll look for
Oh,
somebody
wow.
else
Okay.
to sign off."
Yeah.
Then he reluctantly signed off, and then he never cooperated for anything in the project after that. So,
So that's one of the trade-offs.
one of the trade-offs was that.
So did you
So
face similar issues with the other startups as well, like we got in?
No, the other startups are all mainstream.
Okay.
I mean, EcoSTP was a radical approach that they had,
Okay.
but all
Yeah.
other startups were sort of mainstream products which nobody had an issue with. EcoSTP was something very different from the market. Even STP is a nexus. So you have few technologies and few operators who are hand in glove with a lot of these PCB guys. So where they tend to sort of uh, favor some sort of technologies. So that is another aspect where consultants come into play, where they favor some of those guys,
Okay.
and
Okay.
there are kickbacks that happen.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they tend to prefer who gives them kickbacks.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those sort of things happen in the industry as
Okay.
well.
Yeah. Yeah. The real estate industry,
Yeah.
we know a lot of all this happens anyways.
Right.
Um, so
So
you
which is
want,
where me being a small developer
hmm,
is able to take quicker decisions as
hmm,
compared to a larger developer,
hmm.
and say take the call that okay, I don't want to work with this consultant.
Yeah.
If it's a large developer,
Hmm.
they don't have hands-on connect with these things happening, and they depend completely on the consultant.
So can you explain what the role of this consultant that you're talking about?
So any consultant in real estate, you have a plumbing consultant, you have an
Okay.
electrical consultant, and all of these guys are the ones who designs the system for the project, and they sign off on the project, and that's what gets implemented. So when it's a large developer, if the consultant says no, I don't trust this, or I don't think it will work, they will go with the consultant's view because they have hundreds of projects going on. They
And
can
with
do
the
an
same
experiment
consultants
with
working
or
on.
without the same. They have
Okay.
hundreds of projects. They can't do a testing in one project. If the consultant says no,
Yeah.
they will simply listen to the consultant
Okay.
because they could
Okay.
be a listed company and
Yeah.
they're answerable to hundreds of other people.
True. True.
So, which is where the role of consultants comes into focus
Hmm.
in having sustainable developments.
Okay.
So, a lot of consultants back then were not well aware of sustainable practices. Today, you have a lot of good consultants who are aware,
Okay. Okay.
and they typically tend to drive sustainable projects.
So you will have about how many consultants in one project?
So, typically, you'll have one MEP, which is mechanical, electrical, plumbing.
Okay.
You'll have a structural engineer. You will have a landscape consultant, architect. These are the key people.
Okay.
I also have a sustainable consultant. I have
Okay.
a geotechnical consultant.
Okay.
These are the people I also additionally work with in addition to the rest of the.
Okay. Okay.
And then you have a licensing consultant who is not technical.
Yeah.
But the MEP is the key factor who can help you in sustainability
Got it.
because energy and water comes through MEP.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where it's very imperative to select a very knowledgeable guy who's up to date with technology.
Yeah. So you also have wind turbines on your roof on
Yeah.
Northern Star,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So wind turbines, from what I understand, my limited knowledge, I have a fairly short lifespan. Yes?
Not really.
Yeah.
In fact, wind turbines are more efficient than solar panels, not on residential buildings, but a wind turbine has the potential to generate 24 hours. But your solar is limited to 10, 12 hours of sunlight.
Sunlight, yeah.
So, but windmill is seasonal. When you have wind, you can generate.
Yeah.
But potential is 24 hours. And there is no longevity issues. Solar has longevity issues.
Okay.
The panels may last for 10, 20 years or so.
Okay. Okay.
But wind turbines are much longer.
Yeah.
You just have to
Okay.
replace those blades and stuff.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it's much longer. I would say the running costs of wind turbines are cheaper than solar
Yeah.
because solar requires panel change, panel rectification and stuff.
So how come
But this
there
is
are
talking about a commercial setup. In
Okay.
residential,
Hmm.
I've had different challenges with windmills with the
Okay.
customers and stuff.
Okay.
In terms of noise issues, some customers are not sort of getting adapted to the noise that comes.
Oh, it's very noisy, is
It's
it?
not really very noisy, but some of them sort of attribute that there is noise and they want it turned off. And
Okay.
I'm having that challenge in Northern Star
Northern Star, yeah.
right now,
Okay.
where there is a set of 2 or 3 customers who don't want it on. The
Okay.
rest of the community wants it on.
Okay.
So it's a tough
Yeah. Yeah.
task for a builder to navigate through.
Yeah. 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 True. Associations have
Yeah,
their own
correct,
own
yeah,
challenges.
yeah.
So coming to that, on that point, you have 1, 2, and 3 BHKs all in that same project
In
at
the same
Northern
in that
Star,
project,
right?
yeah.
So as a end customer, my thinking has always been when I had to make an investment that I would invest in the lowest common denominator in any project, because for the same price you get access to the same facilities, right? I mean,
Okay.
for a much lower price you get access to the same facilities. So from a developer standpoint, what is the logic behind having all three, like 1, 2, and 3 BHKs in the same project? Also, given that from a customer standpoint, if I'm buying a 3 BHK, there are like-minded people who are, maybe have families, and
Mm.
the 1 BHKs would be a lot more younger, more
Yeah.
noisier bunch of people, maybe. So what was the
Correct.
thinking of sort of mixing that?
So frankly, our choice was only 2 and 3 BHK.
Okay.
The 1 BHK was forced on us by the bylaws. So you
Oh,
are
really?
supposed to,
Okay.
at that point in time,
Yeah.
there was a rule that said that you need to have 10% of your total number of apartments in EWS, which is called economically weaker section,
Oh, this is the
and which
affordable
has
housing, same as
not
your
affordable housing. They have a
Okay.
carpet size definition which says that
Okay.
that many numbers should be reserved for EWS.
Okay. This is for
So
all projects,
at
even
that
today.
point in time,
At
not
that
today,
point.
at that point in time,
Okay.
there was a rule
I
prevailing
see. I see.
where you have to, it's a stupid rule
Yeah.
because you're not going to have an EWS person coming and living in a
Yeah.
posh community.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we had to follow the rule.
Okay. I see.
So the
Interesting.
idea is to have 1 BHK,
Yeah.
10% of the units.
Okay.
And therefore, we were forced to do 1 BHKs. We
Okay.
don't prefer to do a 1 BHK in communities because, like you rightly said, it's a community, it's families, and
Yeah.
1 BHKs tend to have bachelors only.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we don't prefer 1 BHK. Where possible, we don't try to do 1 BHKs.
Okay.
Or it should be completely 1 BHKs, not nothing
Yeah. Yeah.
else.
Exactly.
So either 2 and 3 or completely 1
1
BHK.
BHKs. Yeah.
So 2 and 3 BHK caters to families.
Yeah.
1
Yeah.
BHK caters to
More younger
bachelors. Yeah.
people. Yeah.
So it is more forced
So,
upon us.
yeah. Yeah. So this 10% is in terms of the number of
It's in
units or
terms of the
the
number of
number of
units. So
units?
I had
Okay.
130 units, 13
Okay.
were 1 BHK.
I see. I see. So, so what have been the biggest challenges in terms of sustainable construction, the trade-offs that you have had to make? So you mentioned one, right?
Yeah.
What else? What are the other
So the
challenges and
biggest
trade-offs?
challenge was what I mentioned in terms of during construction design, the consultants is one big challenge.
Hmm.
The second challenge I faced was post occupancy, like the one I mentioned about
Okay.
windmills,
Yeah.
where there is a small segment of people find it uncomfortable
Hmm.
to sort of bear the noise and stuff. The second challenge was in Northern Star, like I mentioned, I've gone for 100% recycling. And the fact that the water, though it's cleaner than your tanker water and stuff, the psychological block to use
Yeah.
recycled water,
Yeah.
that's a huge challenge.
Hmm.
And I ran the system for 6 months
Hmm.
without informing anybody.
Hmm. Oh,
And I
really?
had all the
Huh.
water tests and everything ready.
Yeah.
And the fifth month, I informed them. There was all hue and cry and stuff, and I showed the reports. They were all okay,
So
fine with it.
informed the buyers or informed your
The users,
stakeholders?
the
The
users were using it without knowing.
Okay.
They were not having any
People who were
knowledge,
living in the
living there,
community.
were
Yeah.
using it without knowing.
Okay.
For 5 months.
Yeah.
The sixth month, I informed them.
Okay.
There was a lot of hue and cry, and then I showed everything. I showed tanker, I showed this report, and they're
Yeah.
all fine with this. But at the first opportunity that they had to stop it, they stopped using it.
Oh, yeah.
The RO stopped working. We had to go for a repair, so it was down for about 2 weeks.
Okay.
After that, they did not want to use it.
Yeah.
So the psychological barrier is very tough to beat.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's probably not just an India issue. There is worldwide, there are very
Yeah.
few countries who use recycled water
True.
for human
True.
consumption and human
True.
usage.
True.
So we were trying to push the envelope too far, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that did not work out in the long run.
Yeah. So when they were buying the project, they were not aware
They
that.
were aware. They
Okay.
were aware. We had in our office marketing was all about sustainability.
Hmm.
So we had put big the flow charts in all our marketing office cabins,
Okay.
stating this is how water is going to go,
Hmm.
this is energy, and all of those were very clearly mentioned.
Okay.
But I guess they did not really understand the gravity of
Yeah.
the task that we were talking about.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So
Interesting. Yeah.
so when it came to using it, they all sort of backtracked.
Yeah.
There were very few minority, like the guy who drank.
Yeah.
He come from the same industry of water,
Yeah.
so he understood looking at it that it's really good, and he, like I said, in fact, drank the water and sort of to give the confidence to community.
Yeah.
He shared it within the community,
Yeah.
but still there were a lot of
Lot of.
people who did not want to use.
Yeah. So, as a developer, right? I mean, your model has been always to do like a JD. Do you do a JD with the landowner, or do you buy out the land and then construct? Do you
So
have a standardized model?
our primary preferred model is joint development.
Hmm.
In certain cases, Tanisandra was our own land,
Okay.
but our preferred model is joint development. So
Hmm.
right now we're doing a 4.5 acre joint development at Sarjapur Road called
Okay.
Co-Evolve Florenza.
Florenza.
Yeah, that
Okay.
is the joint development, and that's the
Okay.
model we primarily follow.
Hmm. Your typical project is what size? How many units?
Till the current project, it was about 150 to 200,
Hmm.
but Florenza is about 381. That's our largest
That's the
project today.
largest project. Okay.
But we intend to stay in that sort of bracket, anywhere
Okay.
between 150 to 200, 300, not too
Okay.
big.
Okay.
We don't want it to be like thousands of apartments. So small
Okay.
size.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
about 500 cap is what we would
Why is that?
plan. It's easier to maintain, easier, say, too many cooks spoil the broth, you say. So
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
large community will have its own challenges.
From a
So
developer
developer perspective, it is easier to get approval for a smaller project. You have lesser tables to run to,
Okay.
and so,
Okay.
and you stay below the radar.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I
that's
see.
most important.
So, at what stage do you start, being shown on the radar? I
When
mean,
you have
how
too
many
many
units?
projects going on, say there
Too
are
many.
5 or 6 projects
Yeah.
going on at the same time,
Yeah.
then you're definitely on the radar.
Yeah. So that was
So,
when, yeah.
touch wood, so far, we have not had a single project where the local MLAs got involved.
Okay.
This project, they've got involved.
Oh, yeah.
We've got about 300, so they've got involved.
So is that the biggest challenge that you have as a developer? What are the other
Definitely.
challenges?
The biggest challenge is up until the point you start your construction
Hmm.
is the most challenging phase in any real estate project.
Okay.
Once you start your construction, it's sort of a regular process that happens.
Okay. Okay.
So, for example, now the new government's changed.
Hmm.
Congress, BJP to Congress.
Hmm.
For the last, since they've taken over, almost 4 months, there was a complete paralysis of approvals. There was nothing moving. Now, I think in September or October, it started moving.
Okay.
Things started moving. But
Okay.
those are the challenges we have, where we have absolutely no control over things.
Yeah. Yeah.
So once construction starts, it's completely in our control, except for things like COVID and stuff.
Okay.
Otherwise,
Okay.
it's totally in our control,
I see.
which is where once the constructions, our timelines that we commit to customers are all based on our start time.
Hmm.
And that starts with the RERA deadline.
So you start selling post that,
We
or
can
do
only
you
sell after RERA. Right now, with
post
RERA in
RERA?
place,
Yeah.
you
Only
need to
after
have
the
a RERA
approvals. Only
approval.
after the approvals can
After
you start.
approval, you can start.
You can start selling.
Advertising also is only after you get RERA approval.
Okay.
So
Okay.
RERA also is sort of delaying things. So for my current project, it took me 3 months to get the RERA approval.
Okay.
So at every stage in the
Yeah.
licensing process,
Yeah.
there is time delays.
So give us an idea of the timeline, right? So let's say that you decide you found the land acquisition
Yeah,
is probably the first
yeah,
first
yeah.
aspect of the whole,
Correct,
and
correct.
then starting from there, let's take the latest project you mentioned, the 381 units.
So it took me around 12 months to get the project started
Okay.
after all approvals, and that I
Okay.
would say is pretty fast.
Yeah.
It's not slow.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pretty fast because I was able to get a first stage of approvals prior to the election. So I was
Ah.
lucky in that sense
Okay.
that I was able to get one stage of approvals through so that I did not have to depend on those bureaucracies
Yeah.
for my further processes.
Okay. Okay.
But there are a lot of factors that comes in. For example, there is something called environment clearance.
Okay.
That meeting happens only once in 2 years. Twice a year or thrice a year.
Okay. So
That
you
is
have
at
to
the
wait for
center.
that to
Yeah.
happen.
So the meeting has to, when that meeting happens, only that file gets cleared.
Okay.
So those are things which are not in our control. So 2 or 3 times a year, they have a meeting in Delhi
Hmm.
for those sort of projects. So those are the things that we need to time.
So is it getting better? Is it
It's
not getting so much
it's
better?
staying status quo per
Status
se.
quo.
While so before COVID, there was a big push for single window clearance and stuff. So
Yeah.
World Bank does a survey which sort of grades cities based on ease of doing business.
Yeah.
So national government had started that initiative, and initially it was only Bombay and Delhi which was sort of giving India the score. They had added Calcutta and Bangalore into that score
Okay.
just before COVID.
Okay.
And very aggressively, the central government is moving in that direction, and then COVID hit.
Okay.
So if it was not for COVID, we might have had much easier
Much easier.
processes in
Yeah.
place already.
Yeah.
But that sort of went out of the window when COVID came.
Yeah.
Everything, nobody talks about ease of doing business anymore.
Yeah. So, are there other developers also who are working on a lot of sustainable design principles, or not so much?
So it's a very small minority that
Hmm.
that do sustainable development. They all try to do, but the point is, I'm very different because it's an owner driven approach for sustainability.
Hmm.
But most other developers don't get into nitty gritties of design and stuff. Their expertise is getting the project ready, like the licensing
Okay.
part, and getting it to a go.
Okay.
So
Okay.
they have their hierarchy who takes care of design and all of those aspects.
Okay.
So that is where it's sort of important for the developer to sort of imbibe that, okay, he needs to go in that direction,
Yeah.
and then have the right personnel in place to make sure those things are implemented, at least at the design stage and stuff.
So, in a lot of ways, it'll have to be driven by the end consumer, right? If consumers are asking for it, and builders are.
Exactly.
So,
That's where I've been at multiple forums telling that it has to be driven by the government. It's not just builder or the buyer who are going
okay.
to sort of
Yeah.
act.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because anything that costs extra money, nobody is willing to do
Yes.
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the government either has to incentivize the developer
Hmm.
or the buyer
Hmm.
or both.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
by
Hmm.
incentivizing developer, you could do things like give extra FSI
Yeah.
to the
Yeah.
developer,
Exactly. Yeah.
or say if you're doing a green building, do a fast track approval.
Hmm.
That's something you could incentivize the developer with. On the customer side, you
Hmm.
could say that we waive off stamp duty or give you a discount on stamp duty,
Yeah.
give you a discount on property tax,
Yeah.
maybe involve a sustainable development in PMAY scheme.
Hmm.
These are all things that could push the buyer to ask the developer that give me a product.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if either of these two happens,
Hmm.
the developer will deliver a product.
Yeah.
Because if there is a buyer,
Hmm.
there will be developers to deliver that product.
Exactly.
For
Yeah.
example, now in Maharashtra, they have a lot of incentives for green buildings,
Oh, yeah.
not for the buyer, for the developer.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
as much as, if I'm not wrong, 10% extra FSI.
Oh, wow.
So
Okay.
almost all buildings in Maharashtra are green rated buildings.
Really?
Simply because
Only
they're getting.
Maharashtra. Only
There are
Maharashtra.
few other states who do that, but Maharashtra is India's largest residential market,
Yeah. Yeah.
followed
True.
by Bangalore.
True.
So that is where there is huge uptake because of the incentive
I
for
see.
the developer that he is able
Yeah.
to build 10% extra area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
more than offsets your extra cost in the project.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're able to sell more in the same area.
Yeah.
So if they come with such incentives,
Hmm.
it then makes it easier for the government to achieve their net zero goals.
Yeah. Yeah.
Our national government has declared that they're going to go net zero by 2070.
Yeah.
And it's only going to happen if the infrastructure companies come on board.
Yeah.
Infrastructure and residential come on board. They play a huge part
Yeah.
in achieving these goals.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Exactly.
CREDAI themselves have put a goal of going net zero by 2050.
Hmm.
But the sad part is we don't understand what net zero is
So,
actually.
can you help us understand
I mean,
what net zero is?
I also don't know too much about it,
Yeah. But
except about the construction side of
yeah.
it,
Yeah.
where you reduce your carbon footprint as much as possible.
Yeah.
So in India, there is a dearth of availability of sustainable tech and sustainable product. For example, there is 3D printing, which is very nascent in India,
Hmm.
but it's quite big in Europe
Hmm.
and other countries. I
Hmm.
think recently in Bangalore, there's a post office that's 3D printed and built
Yes.
somewhere in Cambridge
Yes.
layout.
Yes. Yes. We
So
spoke
that's
about that
one
in one
such
of our
example that is
previous
there.
podcasts. Yeah.
But it's still expensive and it's not democratized yet. We need such things to be democratized. The
Yeah.
other thing is maybe robotic interventions in
Yeah.
construction where you reduce the dependence on labor
Yeah.
and have high precision construction where wastage is minimized.
Hmm. Hmm.
So these are all various trends in sustainability, which India, because labor is so cheap, it does not get adopted here because it's much costly to do a robotic thing. You have all of these interventions happening in Western countries because labor is costly.
Yeah.
But in India, manpower is cheap.
Yeah.
Therefore, it's tough for all of these things to sort of break into the mainstream construction.
But that's changing, right? In terms of labor costs and
It's still
availability.
it's still cheaper to have manpower.
It's still cheaper.
It's still cheaper.
But the trend is.
But the trend is moving towards what's more profitable economically than sustainably.
Hmm.
So there is a trend now which is into your aluminium foam construction,
Okay.
which is highly unsustainable.
Okay.
because it's
Okay.
complete concrete jungle. It used to be partially concrete, now it's fully concrete.
Okay.
So if you live in a concrete building,
Yeah.
which is a aluminium formwork and concrete wall, it's like living inside a microwave oven. You will have to have so much of cooling to keep the ambient temperature low.
Are these like prefab you're talking
Whether
about?
it's prefab or aluform construction, your
Okay.
concrete walls,
Okay.
concrete is a heat trap. If you go to your terrace here and just barefoot step on it, you will scald your
Yeah.
feet.
Yeah. That's why the top floor is always.
It's always empty.
Yeah.
So that's what concrete does. It sort of elevates the temperature of any environment drastically.
Yeah.
So which is where they're moving towards economically. For the developer, it's economic because it's very fast construction. If the sales are good,
Yeah.
it makes perfect sense to
Yeah.
go for a fast construction.
Hmm.
But
Is it
that's
cheaper as well?
because it's faster, it's cheaper.
It's cheaper. And that's what the
But
buyer wants.
yeah, faster. I mean, if the sales cycle is very good, then you're saving on your finance cost.
True.
That's where it becomes cheaper. As such, say apple to apple comparison is costlier.
Okay.
But the fact that you're able to do
Okay.
much faster
Yeah.
makes it cheaper. You save on finance cost.
Finance cost.
Say what you would do in 2 years, you may do it in 1 year using
Yeah.
aluform.
Yeah.
So you save 1 year of your finance cost.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where the metrics come in.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, most developers are going that way, which does not help in terms of the net zero journey that we are supposed to be having.
Yeah. Yeah. So you use the term FSI. Can you help us understand what that
So
means?
FSI means floor space index, which is on a given square feet of land, how much of built up area is allowed to be built. So if you say FSI is 2.5, 1 square feet of land on which you can build 2.5 square feet of an apartment or a home. That's what FSI means. So in places like Maharashtra, they give up to 10% extra, which means that if it's 2.5 square feet, 2.5 FSI, you can build another 0.25 square feet extra on per square feet of land. That's what the extra FSI means. And Bangalore has the highest FSI, I think, of 3.25. And the FSI depends on the width of the road that your property is located on. The smaller the road, the smaller the FSI.
So, if you see if you see New York and you compare that to a Bangalore, right? I mean, you have the tallest and largest buildings in the center of the city.
Yeah.
And as you go away from the center, you have like houses
Yeah.
and it's the opposite
Correct. Yeah.
here in Bangalore.
Yeah.
Does FSI have something to do with that?
FSI, I mean, see that's where if you look at Hyderabad, there's no FSI limit.
Oh, there's no FSI limit.
There's no
in it?
FSI limit.
Okay.
So that's where you have really tall buildings coming up in Hyderabad now.
But how do they manage without any FSI? I mean, that you
So
can
there's no
build
limit. You can build what you want.
whatever you want.
Whatever you want.
Okay.
So then it then becomes a factor of cost.
So what is the logic behind having FSI then?
So having FSI is to limit your urban population. In a
Yeah.
concentration of population is limited.
Like water and whatever.
Water and all your infrastructure is limited,
Yeah.
and the volume of people there also.
So how is Hyderabad able to do without it?
So the thing is, they have good infrastructure. They have given the option for the developer to do how much ever he wants. Whether the infrastructure is going to cope up with it is a different question. But in an urban sense, given the fact that you have limited land and if you give less FSI, the city is going to keep developing into your farms.
Yeah.
So it's best to do the Hyderabad method to go vertical rather than horizontal. Because land is limited. And as such, urbanization is the norm. And in a city like Bangalore, it is just growing and growing because FSI is limited.
Yeah, but the traffic in Bangalore is crazy. I mean, if they had taller buildings here, and as it is, we hardly have any water. How does it sustain without?
That's the dichotomy here. The government tries to shift its responsibilities to the private citizen. Water is government's role. They don't supply it. Waste management is government's role. They don't do that. Sewage treatment is government's role. They don't do that. All of this is in Bangalore. They shift the responsibility and still don't give the unlimited FSI or whatever you call it. The only thing they're supposed to do is road. Even that is not.
Yeah, that's true.
So you have water supply in your core Bangalore.
Yeah.
But beyond the core, there is no Kaveri supply. Now they're adding areas, but there's not enough water available to supply. So the civic responsibility is not being met by the government. But Hyderabad, the infrastructure is very different. If you've gone recently, it's very nicely developed.
Okay.
They've got
Okay.
good road networks and all of those things.
Okay.
But all these projects that I spoke about are all on paper,
Okay.
not yet up. There are very few
Oh.
buildings which is up.
Yeah.
There are buildings which says, I think there are 60 floor buildings, 70 floor residential towers coming there.
Oh wow.
All are
Okay.
started construction now.
Okay.
But we'll know the scenario when it comes up,
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether it's going to be a ghost building or not
Yeah.
is for us
Something
to
we'll
see.
see. Yeah.
Because it's currently investor driven, not really end user driven. Bangalore is an end user driven market.
Yeah. Yeah. True. So, in terms of the more innovative solutions out there today, or what you see around you, given that you're in the space and so much focus on sustainability, like I was reading about solar panels being installed on windows. There
Yeah.
is some company that is working on that, and that's like quite a game changer, right? If we can
Yeah.
have, so anything else like that that you have been working with?
So we have seen this the glass itself. It's not the panel. The glass itself is a panel.
Yeah, the glass
So your
itself is a
window
panel.
glass itself is
Yeah.
a panel.
Yeah.
The cost is prohibitive for residential. For
Yeah.
commercial, it does make sense.
Okay.
But for residential, it's quite prohibitive. It's almost 5-6 times the rate.
Okay.
Not 5, almost 10 times the rate.
Yeah. Okay.
For a
Okay.
residential building. But for commercial, I think there have been some demo installations and stuff. But it's a good thought. If the budget is there, why not? When you do a luxury project, you can look at such options.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the innovative technologies, what's happening now in sustainability is more on the material side. There are ideas coming in,
Okay.
but not much else coming in.
What else? What is happening on the material?
Materials, so there's a lot of fly ash based products coming in. There is a push towards green concrete. So to try and reduce cement as much as possible and replace it with alternatives which does the same thing. So there's a company called JSW working aggressively in that,
Okay.
in terms of reducing cement by at least 40, 50, 60%.
Okay.
So when you say a ton of concrete has a ton of carbon in it. So that's the amount of, so 1 kg of cement is equal to 1 kg of carbon, more or less.
Yeah.
So the idea in real estate or construction industry should be to minimize cement as much as possible to reduce their carbon impact. But it's not yet coming to mainstream. The challenge is the accessibility to the bulk of the developers is not there. Even to a person who's in that domain, to me also, I don't have very many options to look at.
Okay.
So these are all, say, geographically inaccessible places. For example,
I see.
Reap has mentored some companies who are based in Rajasthan, Gujarat. The transportation to here is a big challenge.
Okay. Okay.
So
That way.
what they save in that product
Yeah.
is lost in
Yeah.
transportation.
Yeah. Yeah.
So these are all the various challenges that we have.
Got it.
So a city like Bangalore is not a manufacturing hub, so to speak.
Hmm.
Say all of these components come from as byproducts of, say, power generation.
Okay.
So coal generation, coal use power plants generate a lot of these byproducts which are used to make sustainable products.
Okay.
So you have fly ash, which is the ash from burnt coal, or
Okay.
any burnt carbon gives fly
Okay.
ash.
Okay.
So that is used as a raw material,
I see.
which gives product which has high thermal insulation and a lot of good properties,
Okay.
which is replacement for cement.
Okay. Okay.
So one bad thing gives a good thing which is used for
yeah,
something
yeah,
else.
yeah, exactly. So in terms of the opportunities that, let's say, some startups listening to us, right? So what is your advice to them as a developer? What are your requirements? What should they be working on? What are their opportunities for them?
So see, in India, robotic construction is something which is not yet there. There are few companies working, but they're all in still proof of concept stage. They don't have a product yet out.
Okay.
So robotic construction could be something which is of great interest to developers.
Okay.
Access to local access to construction material, which is low on carbon. That is another one. Solutions on water. Let's say, I mean, a company like Smarta Dharma is a good solution.
Yeah.
You should have 100 more Smarta Dharmas in
Okay.
India.
So Smarter Dharma does exactly what? Can you help
So
us
it
understand?
basically handholds you the entire sustainability journey.
Only sustainability.
It's complete sustainability.
Okay.
That's their forte.
Okay.
Sustainability. In sustainability, they do many things. They sort of do an audit of your company if you want sustainability.
So as a
They,
consultant, or they
as
have
a consultant,
products as well?
no, I don't think they have products. They're a
Okay.
consultant mainly.
Okay.
Their
Okay.
product is also a tool which judges or gives you how much you need to spend to
Okay.
be, say, if you want to do a platinum rated,
Okay.
they will sort of baseline your project and
Okay.
then say, okay, this is what you need to spend to get here.
Okay.
So they have
Right.
developed a tool to do that.
Okay.
So it's a tool to sort of aid their process of consultants.
Mm-hmm. Got it.
So you need companies like that. Say
Mm.
for a developer who has no idea of sustainability, then Smarter Dharma, companies like Smarter Dharma are going to make a huge difference.
I see. I see.
So that's one. So yeah, broadly these are the things. One is the main challenge is accessibility to vendors who provide sustainable solutions,
Got it. Got it.
and a dearth of good MEP consultants
Hmm.
who has ideas on MEP.
Okay.
So this is something I had suggested to Smarter Dharma to become an MEP consultant.
Okay.
Maybe tie up with
Yeah,
somebody
makes sense for
and
them.
become an MEP
Yeah.
consultant
Yeah.
themselves,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that they are in the game of
Yeah.
designing also,
Exactly.
not
Yeah.
just consulting.
Yeah. Yeah. So shifting focus now to your career, right? So straight after your MBA, you joined the family business.
Yeah.
And so how did you decide that? What have been the good parts and the not so good parts about it?
So in fact, I didn't do an MBA. I did
Oh, you did.
I did a master's in engineering
Sorry,
itself.
yeah, master's in, yeah, sorry.
Master's in engineering, and then I joined Dad as
Yeah,
a. He started the company in about 2 decades ago in 2004.
yeah.
I joined him in about 2007
Hmm.
as a site engineer
Oh,
in site.
okay,
So about 7 years I was in site.
okay,
So I became a civil engineer on the job.
okay.
So I can do all calculations over civil engineering. Now I've lost touch,
Yeah,
but back then I could do a complete foundation to finish costing, material, everything I
wow,
could do.
okay.
In those 7 years, I'd learned the entire construction side
Yeah,
of things.
yeah,
Then I moved to purchase.
yeah.
I was handling purchase for a while, for a couple of years. Then I moved into marketing and sales.
Hmm.
And right now, strategy, sustainability,
Hmm.
and land procurement, all of those.
Hmm.
So this is the final stage of training happening now.
So now you're the CEO of the company,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
You're pretty much running.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. So I'm going to ask you a tough question, and I hope that you can be honest when you answer this. So I have a friend who, was working with a MNC, a real estate consultancy, and then she moved into the finance domain. And so she tried to get some of her real estate previous customers to come in and invest in equity. And they were all like, don't even talk to me about stocks, right? I'm making so much money in real estate that I don't even want to look at anything else. I'm not interested in rebalancing my portfolio. So the question is, as a developer, what are the typical margins you see on a project?
It used to be good prior to RERA.
Okay.
It's not so good anymore. So prior to
So,
RERA, it was a good, healthy double-digit figure.
okay.
But now it is single-digit
Yeah.
post RERA.
Okay.
Because RERA now wants us to sort of get everything in place before we launch a project. So it's sort of putting a huge stress on our finance
cost.
cost, because
Hmm.
we earlier would take pre-launch bookings, and that would sort of start funding us in terms of approvals and all of those things. So a good maybe a 10% of the project cost is already down by the time we're able to even
Okay.
launch the project.
I see. I see.
And then there is completion pressure on completion and all of those things. So for us, that's the completion pressure is not there because that's our business model. But for most people, that's a challenge. So
Okay.
they have to also
Yeah.
complete it within that given point
Yeah.
of time,
Hmm.
and they have to get that completion certificate, and otherwise there is a penalty from RERA and all of those things. So the whole margins have come down drastically
Yeah.
in real
That's an
estate.
honest answer.
But I think I would say now this was again prior to COVID also.
Okay.
It was bad. Now it's sort of slightly improved post,
Okay.
since it is now a seller's market.
Yeah.
So we had the longest sort of downturn in real estate prior to COVID.
Yeah.
So when COVID hit, it was just sort of picking up. So I think since maybe 6 months before Modi took over, the recession started.
Okay.
It was a prolonged recession for 7 odd years, and it had started improving when COVID hit.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think after second lockdown is where things started going up.
Yeah.
So now it's a really crazy market.
Hmm.
If anybody has a good product, it is sold out.
Yeah.
So the market's really good now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's hope, touch wood, it stays good
It
for
stays that
a
way.
long
Yeah.
time.
So, any advice to upcoming real estate developers?
I'm too young to give advice, but
You have a lot of experience.
but look at not just your profits. Look at environment. Look at your future. Your children have to survive in this world, so
Hmm.
look at them also. Even if it doesn't make profit,
Hmm.
look at sustainable development.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, thank you so much,
Thanks a
Suhail.
lot.
Was very nice having you over. I learned a lot,
Thank
and
you.
thank you once again.
Thanks a lot.
Hi, I'm Sapna. Hope you enjoyed the session. In this series, we'll be talking about three broad areas: real estate as an investment, prop tech, and business building in general. We also run an annual event called Propathon, and our sessions from Propathon this year are also part of this podcast series. If you enjoyed the session, please do like, share, and subscribe. If you have any comments, anything you would like to hear about, please do leave it in the comment box below.